Hello there, entrepreneurs. Hello there, you businessmen out there. I hope the last 5 days of TechSparks have been exciting for you. It was all digital, the 11th edition. I hope you were able to network, learn, educate yourself. More importantly, find ideas that can change yourself and your companies. I want to close TechSparks with a bang, right? I want to talk to somebody who's made the SMB world in India, grow with them. And it's none other than Tally. They've been a 34-year-old business, tech business, and they've changed the way technology companies think about accounting. In fact, they're a verb. Many of the SMEs don't say accounting, they say let's tally, right? I've got the managing director, Tejas Goenka, all the way from New York. How are you, Tejas?
I'm great, Vishal. Thanks for having me, and good to see you again.
Good to see you too. And thank you for being on TechSparks. It's an event where we try to encourage entrepreneurs to think of the future. And we are here to talk about the future. We're here to talk about how to remain relevant in a constantly changing digital world. The world itself is changing after COVID, Tejas. And you have to tell me, what do you think? What's happening after COVID?
I have no idea, man. I think the last 6 months it's been crazy. Yeah, I think we've seen total like despair in the world. We've seen a lot of hope in the world. We've seen
Yes.
people now just getting used to life the way it is. I don't know. I think it's kind of going to be shaky. But I also have this inherent belief. I think that people will somehow find their way out and somehow deal with it. And I think that's what's happening, right? In New York, I think people are being safe and going out.
Yeah.
I think it's good to see that. It's good to see places open. It's good to see places where you can go out and eat. I'm talking to colleagues, my parents back home. They've started getting to this idea where, as long as we're wearing a mask, we're okay, we're staying away from people. I think, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but I really think businesses have to come back quickly, and at the heart of everything are the SMBs that you serve. And you've been with Tally for 11 years now, and you're a graduate of UPenn. And the way that the SMBs have looked at working with you, Tally, for the last 10 years, the world has changed in multiple technologies. People have gone from mainframes to the cloud to now open APIs. Everything is so dynamic, and now we also have to deal with the pandemic where business processes itself are changing rapidly. What do you think is the important technology piece that SMBs have to look at,
Sure.
going forward, and how is Sally going to help them?
Sure. So I think, the way I kind of look at technology, and pretty much it's there across a lot of industries. The moment the world is going to change, the world is going to innovate. And I think that you have to keep an eye on yourself to make sure that you're willing to pretty much remake yourself. So we've been around for 35 years, right? So I think in this time, we've kind of remade and reinvented Tally about 4 times. We're in the middle of doing that in the 5th time right now. I think by the end of next year, you'll see a totally different version of Tally than you've experienced over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. So I think that's kind of one part about reinventing yourself in this changing world. And it's just about willingness to say, listen, I don't know what the next 3 months is going to be like, but I have the confidence that I can figure it out. So that's one thing. And then from the technology side on your question, I think very honestly, if I look at the last couple of years, a few years, the world has become a lot more connected. Obviously, mobility has been one big piece. Using the power of computing to be able to bring out insights in massive amounts of data, different types of insights. Computer vision, for example, has been a big kind of theme. And I think if I look at the next few years, beyond these other themes in India, I think what will end up taking place is that you will see a lot of low-cost innovation taking place. Because in a market like India, I think if you have to serve a market like India, similar philosophies to what works in the Western world probably won't work. I think that's been one area that we've been kind of investing in. Another thing is that we are going to see a much more discrete world. Many people will end up solving small use cases and find great ways to solve those use cases. And then you don't require this end-all big monolithic kind of solution like you're talking about, this open API kind of model.
Yes.
So you will have a lot of different types of interactions and engagements that take place. And yeah, and
Nice.
companies like us have to just build for it, right? And we have to recognize that and make sure that our systems are much more open and much more integrated or integratable to the rest of the world.
Okay, and your product is in the center of Atmanirbharta, and and last 4 decades, right? I mean, 35 years, like you spoke about. You changed 4 times, and now it's the fifth time. I think our audience would appreciate. I mean, it's a global audience, of course. How does an Indian SMB typically behave in their technology buying process, right?
Sure.
And at the center of that is where you morphed as well. If you can give us insight into that, then we can move on to the future.
Sure. So I think the Indian SME is not complicated. I think that, but it just needs to be understood. I think most people from outside come and see India as a huge market. Is 1.3 billion people. There are 70 million SMEs. There must be something going on. And I don't think that we look deep enough to just visit an SME, spend 3 hours to talk to them, get to know them,
Yes.
and then serve the market. So I think it's not complicated. I would say that 2 or 3 things kind of stand out. First is, in general, I do see India as a very supply constrained market, and we must recognize that when we want to sell. The second is the SME market in India is a very impulse buying market. It's not that you require to have this lengthy sales cycle. Decisions are taken, and the moment you have a conversation, the moment the decision is taken, that's it. There's no big build up. There's no complicated sales process. And then the third thing I think we have to recognize also is that software is not meant for, at least I can speak on the software side. It's not meant to help you organize your business. That's not the purpose of it. We have to just recognize that you're building for kind of a disorganized environment, and it's disorganized in your eyes, right? It's perfect in my eyes. So you have to build for resilience, and you have to build for sustained usage. That's pretty much it. Honestly, there's no secret, and it's a fantastic market. I think people love you a lot. It's a very forgiving market as well. So yeah.
And you want to talk about that experience. I think you're one of the few companies to rapidly move on to GST. I think it took you under 2 months you were able to, or even before GST rollout, you were kind of ready with a prototype, and you were able to roll it up faster for all your 5 million SMEs, right?
Sure.
Right? About 5 million is the right number, I think. But you could tell us about that moment. I think GST fundamentally made rapid technology changes, and COVID more so has accelerated the digital world, right? Please go on.
For sure. So I think a couple of things. So since the late 90s, I would say the brand of Tally has been synonymous with accounting, like you mentioned at the beginning, and touch wood, I think customers have been very kind. The problem has been it's not been paid usage. So we've always tried to encourage and come out with better products for people to find reasons to upgrade and therefore hopefully pay us, right? That's been kind of the way we've been working. GST was a big lever in doing that. Everyone needed a software, everyone needed to automate. And the challenge that we had was 2 things. The first was that, does India really know what GST means for them? So the first big problem was education. And the second big problem was reach. Like I said, India is a supply constrained market. So if someone who's not using a product needs to use Tally, and we would love for them to use Tally, our big problem was being able to solve supply. So in 650 plus districts that you've got in the country, was there a person who could, with knowledge, sell Tally? And is there a person with knowledge who could at least visit that district and educate businesses on GST? So I think we took a few months. The announcement was made in August, if I'm remembering correctly, and I was in Cochin, traveling back to Bangalore when I heard the news. And the moment we landed, we kind of just changed course from where we were going. October onwards, we started our physical events. And from October till June, we reached out to about 10 lakh people just through our physical events, which was crazy. I think that very proud of what I think the team's been able to do there. And the second bit was, of course, scaling up our ecosystem. We've got a very large partner network that we were able to help educate and help direct into each district so that we were able to serve as much as we could.
Okay. And what is the size of the SMBs? I mean, are these 10-member teams? I know even 10,000-member companies use Tally, right? So
Not vocally.
right? It's true, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
anybody of any size can use Tally,
Yep,
right?
yep.
You spoke about mobility as being the key feature of the future,
Sure. Yep.
right? Everybody says, is your application mobile first? It
Yep.
is. It is also, you can access it remotely also. You want to talk about this, Tejas?
Sure. So, from a mobility point of view, I think it's obvious that we have to get to mobile. There's no kind of denying that. And I think what we've noticed is over the last, if you look at the last 10 years of this advent of smartphones, the business usage still remains limited to communication, um, WhatsApp, email. That's
Yes.
pretty much where I think business use is still limited to. And we've been trying to figure out what will it take to actually to get Bharat onto, business being done on mobile. And I think that the way we kind of see it from an SME point of view, and even from the next few years, is that privacy and security of data will matter a lot. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done, I think, at the underlying layer, to be able to guarantee to any individual who's using, let's say, Tally on mobile, the kind of security and privacy that you would guarantee today. That nobody in Tally knows about you, nobody in Tally knows about your data, nobody will ever know. And I want to be able to stand up and say the same thing when I go to a customer with an app on whatever phone, right? I think that's the basic philosophy with which we're working. So we're a few months out from kind of doing that, but when we do it, this is the promise that I want to be able to make.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay. These promises are amazing because you're ready. Tomorrow, if you want, I can take accounting data and also look at the invoices being generated.
mhm.
And that invoice can be actually linked to a bank immediately for working capital. And I think the government's coming up with a policy. The open
Mhm.
aggregator network is happening.
Yep.
I think, what are your thoughts on policy helping you? I think you're, again, at the center of it all. You have the access to so many SMEs today. Right off the bat,
Sure.
you can create new credit histories, new loan products from banks for these SMEs. It's off the bat, it's possible for Tally today.
Yeah. So I think policy always helps in driving technology adoption. There's no question about that. But I think we have to segregate the two problems kind of cleanly. So
Yes.
I think we've been thinking about this a lot. Can we help our customers get better access to financing, as one kind of core thing? And I think we've settled on a basic rule that we will use to decide how we want to do it. And the main idea that we are wanting to take again is focused on privacy and security. That
Right.
I think in the last 35 years, people trust us to be able to help them run their businesses the way
Yeah.
they want to run it. I would say that's the
Correct.
kind of the right
Correct.
terminology. And I don't think I want to shake that at all. So even if we do end up doing financing, we'll do it in a manner that gives our customers complete control on what they do. And policy will help. Policy will help drive its adoption. Policy will help make it more comfortable for many people to use it. But at the core of what we do, I think that same idea of privacy and security will remain. It's a really really big deal for us. We like the way I'm driving the team also is that not a single person in Tally, no matter who's made the product, should be able to ever get access to any data of any customer.
Mm.
Cloud, no
Mm.
cloud, it doesn't make a difference to
Correct.
our lives.
Correct.
But that's the it's a big deal for us.
It's interesting that you brought these things in, right? While that, counterintuitive articles, basically saying that, cloud is the future and all that. You're saying the customer should be given the option to decide. And you're saying India should not sign up for things because everyone else around the world is talking about it. And it's an important point you raised with me also. And I
Sure.
like the fact you should tell us why you need to look at different technologies before just saying that, hey, this cloud works for me. I'll move my software onto the cloud and everything is onky dory. It doesn't work that way. And I want you to clarify that because very important point in digital transformation also.
Sure. So I think what I'm kind of most concerned by is, so I'm not, it's not an anti-cloud statement at all. I
Absolutely,
think the cloud
absolutely.
has
Glad
very
you
big thing,
clarified that.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I think it's a personal choice of a company more. So if you look at, let's say, for example, a model of Facebook or the Google's business model, the model depends on richness of the profile of me. So if they have to sell ads to me, if companies have to sell ads to me, the more that Facebook knows about me or the more that Google knows about me, they'll be able to monetize me more, right? That's how their inherent business model works. I think it's very different from our domain. I think for us, if a business is willing to pay for software, which I think most businesses are, I think it's on the producer of the software's job to convince that to the business.
Right.
But if a
Yes.
business is willing to do that, then I do think that ensuring the security of data will become critical. I also think it's a competitive edge. I think people
Yes.
who will give more security and privacy will get a bigger trust in the market and in our domain than people who don't give privacy and security. So I think that you'll be able to fight it out in the market just for this one thing. And I think if India doesn't care yet, I think the world will start caring a lot over the next few years as well. There was this thing, right, that on the consumer side, privacy and security is dead, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen on the B2B side, and I don't know if that happens, when that'll happen either. So yeah, that's the perspective that I got. That
Yeah.
when you're taking a decision,
Nice.
it's about keeping your own safety in mind.
Absolutely. And in that case, why is Tally, important for my digital transformation as is it finance as a service? Finally, I want accounting as a service plus because now that RBI is allowing, me to share information with a lot of banks, right? Can Tally help me there? And how can it help me go forward, please?
So kind of, I mean, going forward, I don't know. So I'll tell you how we see the world. I think the world is becoming a lot more connected. I think the way we are innovating is to bring the power of this connectivity to our customers. The way we see the world is that software, different pieces of software will talk to each other to be able to make life much more convenient for the business owner. We think that obviously mobility is going to be an inherent part of that. We think that you will have access to services in natures that you were never having access to services before, including financing options, lending options, etc. So we're kind of building out for that inherent future. That's one big pillar. The second we think is that over the last 30 years, we've seen MSMEs, I would say about 8 to 10 million MSMEs, those that are registered with GST, have to pay basically income tax or some kind of indirect tax. I think most of them have automated their back office. I think where the trouble has been is in automating the front office. And I think that many people have attempted, but there's a chance to really build something big for India. So we think that not only will you see 10, 20, 30, 40 million businesses automate a lot of their core things. So we're taking some bets on that. And I think for us, the third big opportunity is to move outside of India as well and try to see how we can get into markets kind of outside. Yeah. So, but the two big ones from a technology piece are the ones kind of spoken about.
Okay.
For a more connected world. Yeah.
India is a fintech nation, right? Lots have changed after 2016. I think in our lifetimes, right, this has been a phenomenal time for growth in our country. New entrepreneurs, right? What are your thoughts on 2-3 things? The proliferation of networks through Geo, and of course, the drop in prices of networks, right? The data-led revolution, the new age kind of entrepreneurs who don't need a physical network, right? These pieces coming together. What does that mean to Tally from a sales and marketing perspective? And also the fact that you already mentioned that the future is about partnerships, not doing everything yourself, right? So, considering the last 4 years have been rapid changes, do you see growth coming from smaller towns? The large towns consolidation. You see new entrepreneurs cropping up all the time in India. Is it a very dynamic world today compared to previous times where you had to be entitled?
Sure. So I think I've learned a lot, I think, in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
just traveling and meeting a lot of our customers, and and I think a couple of things that I've learned, and I'll come back to the question on the changes that have also been made.
Yes.
I think India inherently is a very, very entrepreneurial country. It's far more entrepreneurial than I think I've seen most of the world that I've traveled. And I don't know why, but it is. I think that's one reality that has come to me. So I think that's one part. The second is, I think policy will certainly keep helping. The moment you make it easier for businesses to start and entrepreneurs to work, I think you will only boost this. Despite problems in policy, we've still been an entrepreneurial country. So I think that's something to kind of take away. So I think you'll keep seeing that taking place. The second is, it's been certainly over the last few years, it's been easier for businesses to start, businesses to run. Um, uh, uh, Networks have made it much easier for us to connect with each other. Opportunities have grown. There's no doubt about that. And I think honestly, it'll only keep getting better. So we will see different types of startups, different types of businesses, kind of coming into India. I also think that we've got some very innovative solutions that will only work in markets like India, and that's been fantastic, right? So if you look at, for example,
Yes.
our entire payment infrastructure, I think we are incredible. I don't think I've been in New York for almost 6 or 7 months now, right? And I still have to carry cash. In India, I feel like I never have to carry cash.
We're way
Everyone
ahead.
accepts. Yeah, we're way ahead, way ahead. So I think that stuff like that is super encouraging and gives a lot of openness for ideas to come out and on trying to solve new problems.
Okay, they just India has several. People, the other day I was talking to somebody from Walmart. They said India has several countries.
Yeah.
It is so difficult to piece it together. Like you said, India has to be understood. It's not complex. Uh, Talk about your business. You've traveled across India. You're one of the few CEOs, MDs who goes and meets customers in the smallest of towns. And gets feedback. Where do you see growth coming from? That segment, right, has always been averse to. I shouldn't say averse. Also, I mean, they think technology is going to constrain them. Is that going to change? How are smaller town entrepreneurs going to lead this tech revolution? Will it be more local, or do Indian entrepreneurs understand numbers better than having local or vernacular languages? How will that pan out?
It's a good question. So a few views I do have. I think the opportunity for people like teams like that I work with, have this opportunity to be able to solve for many different problems which have not yet been solved for. I don't think that's the burden on the entrepreneur. I think that the opportunity exists. So, for example, I'll just take one category. Right? If you look at a CRM as a category, it's a very popular, fast-growing market. But you'll also see that only certain scale of businesses are wanting to adopt CRM, and certain types of businesses are wanting to adopt CRM, and it's difficult to do it because there's no compulsion in the business to actually make it happen. And if you stop recording all your interactions with customers, the system starts becoming useless to you. So unless you really implement it, you have a big problem. And I think there's an opportunity to be able to solve for things like that, right? So and that's not keeping big city, small city in mind, but there are those categories which you have to kind of solve for. The
Yes.
second thing there is, and my opinion has certainly changed after COVID. I think there's been this urbanification of India. The Bangalore that I grew up in just 10 years ago is obviously not the same as the Bangalore that exists
Yes.
today. And I'm hoping that at least this sliver of Bangalore will remain over the next 10 years, but we'll see. So I think post COVID, I mean, as a company, for us, we've been thinking that is it possible to encourage work from home for some roles? And will people work from Bangalore or will people work from other cities? And we've been seeing that this ability for you to encourage work from home from other cities will be there, which means good salaries for people will come from other cities, which means that it's possible for local economies which are non-metro based or non-tier 2 city based will also kind of grow. I think that's very possible. And I think that will happen over the next 5 or 7 years, which is extremely encouraging, which means that local spend will move up, which means that local entrepreneurship will move up and the local economy will go up, which I think is a cycle that will take place. So you will see less, I feel, you will see less urbanification, and you'll probably see people liking staying in non-crowded, non-polluted places, and still living a good life. So I think that we will see growth there as well in slightly smaller towns, and it's for a different reason than what most will.
That's a very strong argument, a very nice argument. I think that if anything, the COVID's taught us, I think people don't want to move to crowded spaces like cities anymore. They'd probably be in their hometowns, and the power of digital, right? They'll probably do sales calls like how you're doing. Maybe they'll come down once in 6 months to have a coffee and to understand that there is a Vishal out there, or there is a Tejas out there, kind of thing. And it's not a robot or some kind of virtual kind of cyber security robot attacking us or something like that. Interesting times. And I want to take it a bit personal now. I wanted to quickly understand from you. I don't want to use the word reluctant, but I'm going to use it now. You were going to be you were trained to be a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be good with stuff. How did getting into software happen? I mean, I want to ask you that because you've transformed yourself, and I think because we're talking transformation here, I think a lot of people have to realize that world throws opportunities at you, and you've got to move fast. And you've taken the company to $100 million in revenue plus. How's that journey been for you, Tejas? I know a lot of it goes back to the chairman and founder, also your father, and but how did that transformation happen to you?
So I think first, all of the company's been built is not my credit at all. I think it's more dad and granddad. There's no question about that. But just on my side, I think so. I did want to be a mechanical engineer. At some point, I wanted to have what today Tesla is. I wanted to be the founder of the largest electric car company at some point. But through school, you meet people, you get inspired in different ways. And I think two coincidences kind of took place at the same time. One, I started getting some interest in the business side of things more than the engineering side of things also. And the second was that I'd come back home and dad was like, you're just sitting around. Why don't you start coming and seeing what we do? So I used to go in my shorts and t-shirt to office, and everyone's wearing a shirt and trousers, and it was all formal. But I kind of fell in love with, I think, the possibility to dream at a scale which I never heard before. And I think that got me attracted to what we do. It's certainly not been an easy journey. I think over the last 10 years, every few months, I think it happens to everybody. You question, why the hell are you sitting and doing this? But I honestly think that people power through. They learn that lesson that you needed to learn over the last few months, and you kind of move forward, and you find this ability to motivate yourself to do that. So I have a very positive view of where the world will move, despite all the scariness around us. I think that humans have this inherent resilience in them. You see that over the last many millennia that we've been alive, and I think that the world is just going to be better because we will act to make it better. And there's a possibility to do something really big in this world. So that's been my journey. It's been I've fallen in love with the space of technology and software. I feel like I understand it well now. So yeah, that's a lot to go.
The Tally School is very interesting because it really takes you down to the roots of India, right? In many ways. I mean, somewhere along the way in your transformation as a leader, what are the learnings? What are some of the, like you said, India is not complex. Try to understand it. And you're from Bangalore, and if you're from Bangalore, you're truly global. But then you just go 50, 60 kilometers outside Bangalore. It's a whole different nation out there, which requires your time. What lessons did you learn?
So that's a good question. I think a few things, if I have to sum it up. I think one is that always stay connected to your customer. I think that's a very important thing. So for me, for example, I do dedicate about half a day or 1 day a week just to meet with customers. It's not for anything. It's just for my own insight. It's for my own personal kind of growth. And you meet extremely interesting people. There's a gentleman, for example, I met in Ludhiana and Punjab. There's no way that I would have at the face of the meeting, I would have not known what he would do, but he's built an incredible business, an incredible chain of retail stores. And it's marvelous. Anyone in Ludhiana must go and visit, and they must know him as well. But you meet people like that give you a different perspective on life and inspire you to do different things. I think that's one thing. So keep connected is one. The second is you have to keep refreshing your own self. So you have to realize from outside who you are and what your problems are. And you've also got to realize that if the world is moving in a particular way, you're just that medium to take something from point A to point B.
Right.
Which means you have to invest really in yourself, discarding your past and becoming something new. I think that's another thing that I've learned. The third thing I've learned is people matter a lot, and kindness matters a lot, right? It's just
Very important. Yes.
human thing. So I think as a company, I think I've learned that a lot from my parents. That they've built a culture in the company, which is a very caring culture, and I think many times I found that we go over and above for our partners. We go over and beyond for many of our customers. And I think that's something that I'd like to definitely continue, because it matters in how the team respects you also, and how they build their families, how they build their their teams, and it kind of percolates. And I think the fourth is just decide fast. I think
Yeah.
we spend a lot of time kind of just rolling around in thought, and we don't take a call. And I think I've realized that I've started becoming frustrated with that. So decide fast and just move.
Okay.
And you'll see
Okay.
the
You
world
know,
kind of pays you back.
no, Tejas, I really want you to succeed. Wish you all the best also, because when you look at Indian businesses, the e-commerce space pretty much is dominated by global companies. You have only Reliance, holding foot and staying strong there. I mean, in any technology you take, right? Very few companies, other than the SaaS space, right? You have companies that are dominated by, Delaware, either Indian companies going off with IP to the US. You're one of the few companies still rooted in India, much like Zoho, right? And at that juncture, right, what is it? I mean, is there extra pressure on you? One is, as a founder, you have the legacy that you have to continue it, but you seem to overcome it because you understood the power of software. You want to go out there and proliferate that knowledge with a lot of other businesses. But in the overall market, right, where do you think India should go? Where do you think Indian entrepreneurs should position themselves at this point of time while the government's pushing Atmanirbharta? And what advice would you give them?
So I'll talk about tech entrepreneurs, I think,
Yeah, please.
to start with. I think for tech entrepreneurs, I would really encourage the pivot to India, not the pivot away from India. It's not a difficult problem. It does take some time to solve it, but I also think it just takes thought and insight to be able to solve it. I'm super excited on the potential of India. And I do think that the next 10 years is kind of the India decade to a large extent. Maybe I'm being myopic, I don't know. But I certainly believe that we do have a lot that we can offer. And I think there's a huge market to build for. So I would encourage that. Just take a little bit of time to recognize that. And I think that it's very possible to do. I think the second is, of course, the India for the world. So just beyond the Atmanirbharta, I think it's amazing to see the kind of transformation we've seen in the last 10 years of how many companies, product companies that have come out of India that are building for the world. And that's also amazing. There's no question about it. So there's a lot that I think we can learn as a company from them, and a lot that we can kind of take away. But very honestly, these to me are two big ones as themes. It's generic. I'm very much for the first one. I love building for India. The problems are very unique, and I also think that it gives you this upper hand when you try to build for the world as well. So that's one thing. I think the second is that if I look at the kind of innovation, I think India has a lot of talent in building core technology. And I think for some reason, we've also now in the last 10 years got the patient capital to do that. We've got the talent to do that, but somehow we're not able to focus on that problem to do that. And if you think about, say, for example, you think about this whole Alexa, Google Home, you look at this whole voice technology. India should be able to use it, and India should be able to do really well with it. And the thing is that we've got so many people with so many different dialects, so many different accents, so many different languages. If we build for things like this, I think instead of a Microsoft solving it, or instead of a Amazon solving it, or a Google solving it, or an Apple solving it, I think it's very possible for an Indian company to solve it. So we have talent, we have the patient capital to do it, but for some reason we aren't. So I think that's the other bit that I'd love to see coming out of India. So it's not advice, but it's just this dream that I have.
Don't worry, Tejas, we are going to do it together. And you're at the center of that. Your story is going to bring a lot of entrepreneurs to you at some point of time. And I hope that they get some valid time, and I hope you're going to guide them. Guys, keep the questions flowing. Okay, this is not the end of the day where TechSparks, where you have to wait for the next TechSparks to talk to Tejas. Just write into your story, write into me, and I can get you guys in touch with Tejas. And believe me, create a great team, focus on customer, take care of your product, and then make sure you build a great business. India for the world, like Tejas said. Don't ignore India. It's not complex. Go understand the ecosystem. Tejas, you've been wonderful, and I wish to do this again. Thanks for being on TechSparks. You're lovely.
Absolutely, Vishal. Thank you for having me. Take care.